Hello, history lovers. It's JaQuay Edward Carter, founder and president of the Greater Hazelwood Historical Society of Pittsburgh. And today we will be unboxing history. I received a message from an Allison Flowers of North Carolina who said at a thrift store she came across an amazing historical book, as she described. But for lack of space, now that she's moving, she will no longer be able to hold on to this book, and reached out to my organization to see if someone would want to take the book. Uh, and of course, I raised my hand because I have been building a collection and repository of Hazelwood's history, including ephemera, memorabilia, artifacts, um, everything you could think of. Which have come my way or I have searched for. So this was amazing find for both Allison and myself, and I'm so excited to share with you as I unbox and open the package that I received today. So inside, I did get a little preview of what the book would look like and some of the items in there. The first is actually this Hazelwood school booklet from 1937, and I actually have another one of these that was donated to the society by way of the Squirrel Hill Historical Society. Thanks again, Helen Wilson and everyone there at the Squirrel Hill Historical Society. But this one is in great condition, and I'm happy to have two just in case. You can never have too much history. So inside there were actually two newspaper articles, which looks like they may have been from the Hazelwood Envoy newspaper, which had been discontinued in the early 1960s. But this one here was about a business course at Gladstone School, which is really interesting, and I don't think I've ever seen or heard of that particular course at Gladstone. And there's not a date or anything for that, but this would have been at the junior high school. So I do believe that this probably would have been sometime in the 1950s, if I'm not mistaken. But in any event, there's also another article, I believe, from the Hazelwood Envoy talking about one of the veterans groups in Hazelwood and how they were having a parade with the drums and bugle corps awarded many prizes. So that was actually a group of youngsters, which I will of course be able to share this close up on the Facebook group. So look forward to see a lot of this information there as well. But I do recognize a few names that would have been pictured here, and I believe they would have been school aides at this time. Robert Bodner is one that I recognize. Also, Albert Rush. Also, Donald Jenkins probably is, still has family in Hazelwood, or they're active through the Facebook group. So I hope these names ring a bell for you all as well. And I did notice another one as well. Lutz Verratti or Verratti. So these look like these are Hazelwood locals, and this is really cool to see this Hazelwood Envoy newspaper clippings, which are not available anywhere else, and would have had to have been kept from that time in order to still have them today. So I mean, this is amazing to see some of these, and I'll use my magnifying glass to see a little bit more information that was able to be obtained here. But this is absolutely cool, really, really cool. And I'm noticing some of the businesses that they mentioned as I was able to use my magnifying glass, because they do mention Massaro's Pharmacy, Chiaramello's Tap Room, Chiaramello's Tap Room there on the corner of Elizabeth and 2nd Avenue. And then also Elizabeth Pharmacy, you'll see Star Electric Company. That's pretty cool to see. We'll go back to the booklet here and just talk to you a little bit more about this. This was when the school was closing. I do believe it was open from 1872 to 1937, 2nd Avenue and Tecumseh Street in Hazelwood. So it said, dedication to the former principals, teachers, and pupils by the principal, teachers, and pupils of today. This brochure is respectfully dedicated. And then on the inside, it did talk about the school having 65 years of service and a little bit about its history and some of the faculty that was there in 1937. And a list of all of the principals from the school's beginning in 1872 until its closing in 1937. So, of course, we will look more into this. And it was so amazing that some of the faculty had also been students there at some point. There were some stars next to a few names where they were actually Hazelwood alumni. So we will be able to look into this a little bit further. And of course, the history of the school from its start to the closing, which is really, really interesting to me. I would definitely, talk about this a lot more and be able to share this with you all. All right, and then another picture of the Hazelwood School there, and I'll put these articles back in. Of course, making sure to preserve and be very careful with all of these because they're more than likely from the 1930s and 50s, which would be between 70 and 90 years old right now. Then also in the amazing historical book was a booklet for the melting pot pageant that was put on at the Hazelwood School, also when the school was closing in 1937. And 1937 was also the same year that Bergwijn School opened, so it actually did replace the elementary school that had been there since the 1870s. And the reason why it was called the melting pot is because Hazelwood was often referred to as Pittsburgh's melting pot, although Pittsburgh was a melting pot in its own sense with having Polish Hill or Little Italy. I mean, all these enclaves in different neighborhoods representing different ethnic diversity. But Hazelwood had all of that in one small neighborhood, of about 13,000 residents at one point. So it was a place that had 3 Hungarian churches, one of, only a few places in the United States that would have such a need for 3 distinct religious, groupings within the Hungarian church. There was a Lutheran church, a Roman Catholic church, and also a Reformed Hungarian church serving, a very large Hungarian population just for one of the groups that was there. But I mean, every group that you could think of had actually been living in Hazelwood, including Polish and Greek, even, gypsies had lived in Hazelwood. Obviously, African Americans had come, even after that. And, in certain parts of the neighborhood, such as Scotch Bottom, all of those groups would live together, pretty harmoniously. So Hazelwood was certainly a melting pot. It had a lot of ethnic diversity, and this pageant that was put on, I'm sure, talked a lot about that. It looks like there was a poem composed by the 6th grade students, which I will share with you all, of course, in future videos and through our Facebook group. But it also did have a few dance performances entitled with different ethnic diversity and representing different groups. There was one that stands out by the 2nd grade students called Indian Hunting Club. And then another one by the fifth graders that was called Scotch Bottom. So it was referencing the Scots-Irish Presbyterian settlers who were among the earliest European settlers to first come into Hazelwood. And there would be a neighborhood by the 1950s called Scotch Bottom, which August Wilson actually references in Joe Turner's Come and Gone. And he lived in Hazelwood for 4 years in the late 1950s and early 1960s. So he was familiar with Scotch Bottom enough to include it in one of his works. So this is just amazing to see this. It looks like there was a violinist and also a bagpipe player. So I'm sure this was very culturally relevant for the times. And we'll talk more about this also in the future. Allison also sent a book that she described as this amazing historical book. So that was this. There is some damage to the binding, and would love to get this fixed if possible. And some tape that is sort of holding the cover together. But on the inside, this is a minute book for the Hazelwood Savings and Trust Company of Pittsburgh, incorporated on February 21st of 1901. So this book is 125 years old, and does have, from the beginning and founding of the Hazelwood Savings and Trust Company, which later was known as the Hazelwood Bank, on the corner of 2nd Avenue and Hazelwood Avenue, in a building that also had office space and meeting space above on the 2nd and 3rd floors, and local churches in Hazelwood, businesses, other organizations would also utilize those upper floors for events and gatherings. So this does have some names that stood out to me. Robert Jenkins Jr., Frank Cohn, William Barker, and also the Burgwin and Beener families, representatives, also were involved in the founding of the bank. And it does have all of the weekly meetings they were having, and as things went on, as far as the architecture of the building, buying furniture, all sorts of things were happening in the early days. As I'm going through, I'm also seeing some deeds to some of the properties in Hazelwood, including the Hazelwood Brewery that was founded in 1904. So that deed is in here, and I would love to be able to get in touch with the owner of the new Hazelwood Brew House, who I worked with as a consultant when they were doing the renovation and reconstruction to the building, and would love to maybe have him, frame this and put it on the wall. I think that would be so cool. Here's a certificate for the Hazelwood Savings and Trust Company. This would have been some stock information that someone had purchased. There are some names, Bolton, Palmer, and Sousons. And some of these names I am familiar with from Hazelwood. So I will share all of this information with you all in the Facebook group or in future videos as well. So I thought that was really, really interesting to have so much information about Hazelwood in its early days, and sort of in its heyday, when there were so many businesses along Second Avenue that would have utilized this bank, being one of the only, if not the only, certainly the largest bank in Hazelwood. So a lot of business would have been done through the bank, and it's incredible to possess something like this, which is not available online anywhere. There is nothing else that would show this sort of first-hand development of Hazelwood's business district in its early stages. So blessed to have this information. Also, of course, the Hazelwood School information, and also the Melting Pot pageant information that we uncovered in our Uncovering and Unboxing History series that we're going to start to do more videos of. And I can talk more about some of the other items in the collections of the Greater Hazelwood Historical Society. And as we are looking for more items to add to the collection, if you have things, from Hazelwood's past that you may not even realize could be useful in educating about Hazelwood's historical past, it would be amazing if you would reach out to me, and we can set up something in order to collect and preserve those, and possibly put them on display. There has been a display with Carnegie Mellon at their new Robotics Innovation Center on Composite Street down on Hazelwood Green. And they were able to use a lot of items through my collections, and with the Historical Society. And also we had an event where people brought in items at the Hazelwood Library. So we'll probably do that again, just with my own organization, and maybe not with Carnegie Mellon this time. But we are looking for more items. So this just really sparked that quest, to track down things like this that people may have lying around, collecting dust, in their attics or basements, that would be much better served and in better hands, being able to be on display, or being able to be used for learning about Hazelwood's history. So thank you so much for spending this time. And I'm JaQuay Edward Carter, and please stay tuned for more